This over here is Beatrix. She is a brand new cultist mage AoE DPS summoner hero who is arriving in the game tomorrow. And she sucks. She really, really sucks, but I don't want to just tell you that. I want to show you that. So in this video, we are doing extensive testing in which I'm testing her AoE capabilities. Hey guys, Fasti from the future here. You can see behind me, I just finished filming. I have all my results. I blacked them out. You're going to have to watch the video. I thought she was going to be maybe the worst hero in the game, and I was proven wrong. So you might hear me really cynical at the beginning. After testing, she is not as bad as like Kria. That being said, she is pretty darn bad. I've got tons and tons of receipts to prove it. In my opinion, and it's very important to me that I share this at the front of the video, that's why I'm doing that, she is in desperate need of a buff or a very special exclusive or something like that. As it stands now, I think she has one of the laziest, most uninspired kits in the game. Let's get into it, guys. We have many hours of damage testing to show you, which hopefully I've compacted in a somewhat short video. Let's find out.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
So you can see there's two forms of tests we will be running. You may be wondering why so many tests, or why two different versions of tests, and you know why so many test subjects. We're testing 7 different AoE mages over here, 5 different ones over here. Why is that? Well, there's no clean way in this game to test AoE damage. Obviously, Gear Aid 1 is the best place to do it, and that is where we will be conducting today's testing. However, because this boss can heal his allies, your enemy targets, and because they can all bunch up in greater and greater numbers at the wall if you're not killing them fast enough, actually, a very poor performance can show up with really big damage numbers. Let me explain that to you. So let's say I was an AoE DPS hero and I'm really bad. I would be here, I'd keep hitting them, racking up damage, never killing them. They would keep getting healed, and I would just have more and more targets to keep boosting my numbers, even though I suck. In this example, I am Beatrix. She really, really sucks. So the way I'm going to prove that to you is with these two tests. The first test is called the first burst test. I'll explain it very quickly, but you're gonna see it 7 times in a row. I'll speed a lot of this stuff up. Don't worry, this video is not gonna be that long, I hope. But you'll see, essentially, this is how much DPS can each one of these heroes put out in an optimal scenario before the first heal from the boss. So before the boss has had any opportunity to revive his guys, give an opportunity to your hero to hit targets that should be dead, but your hero sucks, so they're still there and they get healed up and you get to keep hitting them. Up until that point, and I will time it out specifically every time, how much DPS, how much damage can we put out? However, that's not the most perfect test, obviously, because some of these heroes you want improving as the battle goes along. Someone like Beatrix, will go over her kit later. I figure it's easier if I just show you how bad the kit is and then I explain it after the fact. But part of her kit is when her summons explode, there's a little AoE DPS and she regains rage. So perhaps in a full run, she will actually be a lot better because she will cycle her ult more effectively. It is just so I can explain, in each one of these, the test hero needs to be paired with a good hero. So you can see the first 4 tests, we're comparing all these heroes with Dahlia, and then at the very end, I'll do a test with Beatrix and Anora, since Anora is supposed to be the queen, the glue among all these summoner heroes. Can Anora make Beatrix better? No. But we'll see how much little bit not sucky she can make her. We are going to do a lot of testing. I'm really going to show this off. We're even bringing in an epic hero who's going to blow her out of the water. Without further ado, let's head into battle. Let's do some testing and let me prove to you definitively that we have a new hero, shockingly mediocre at best in Watcher Realms. Let's get to it. All right, let's get right into our first burst testing. We're going to go right down this list, kicking things off with Beatrix. I told you I'd very, very briefly explain it. This is how it works. For all the stuff you will see today, we're using an epic lord. I chose Eona, who we will never deploy. She is there just because she's the most accessible epic lord. Legendary lords are unrealistic for a lot of players. Abizu's really rare. We're just using Eona just for the lord skill. That is it. Then we will have our test subject. This is our AoE magic cultist DPS, starting off with Beatrix. Then we have Cyrene. You guys can see these little emblems in the bottom right corner. This comes with the new patch in a couple days. It's just showing these heroes are not fully equipped with gear. That doesn't matter. The only 3 heroes that are even getting deployed in this example are the AoE DPS test subjects, starting off with Beatrix, then Dolores, and then Mari for the magic vulnerability, increased magic damage taken by the enemies, and the consistent crowd control effects to enable the Cultist Lord skill. Venoma is here, so when we quickly deploy Cyrene, she will very quickly ult, give us a little extra cost, and make it really consistent, you know, with that 12 extra cost, and then we'll retreat her from battle, that we can always, before the enemies start coming down, have our AoE DPS, our Mari, and our Dolores ready to go with nearly full ults. And it's kind of controlled since, you know, someone like Eona has fairly low cost, someone like Beatrix fairly high, someone like Zelus extremely high. That is all you need to know. We will run the exact same build on all these heroes, and let me tell you right out of the gate, you are going to be disappointed by the results Beatrix puts out, and that is coming with the caveat that even though it's disappointing, she is max skilled, which the vast majority of you will never do unless they buff her or change her, or there's some content that I can't even imagine that she would be good at, and she's in like what would be the best gear or better gear than anyone has on their account, except for very, very few accounts that are extremely endgame. These are very high-end, you know, min-maxed, endgame ancient kind of pieces. We're looking at lots of attack, crit rate, attack speed, lots of flat attack bonus rolls. Over here, we're getting crit damage on the weapon with other nice stats. And on this one, we're getting a big crit rate roll with attack bonus and a lot of crit damage. Very, very good gear, which leads to very good stats. Unfortunately, Beatrix's base stats are pretty darn terrible. She is slow. She has low attack. She's just not good, but you can see this is about as strong as you'll ever get her. We're also going to run her and all these other test subjects in a maxed out tier of Twilight, a very rare artifact at full promotion. This is near maximum ability for this test. So without further ado, let's do Beatrix, test her damage in the first burst test. This test will make perfect sense once you see it in action. So let's head into action. This one I'm going to show you without it sped up so you can see how it works. The subsequent 6 tests will speed up pretty quickly. We deploy Cyrene. We can already deploy our AoE DPS, who's Beatrix. Oh, what is that? This is her range? It's Cratch range? She's as bad as Cratch? Kinda, yeah. She can't even reach this entire row, this entire column over here? Correct. She can't even touch all 3 lanes. What a fun hero. That's Beatrix, baby. Okay, there she goes. We wait. Cyrene's about to trigger. There, we even got the lucky coin. Doesn't matter, though. We would have had enough. We deploy Dolores here. We deploy Mari here, and we are done. Let's throw this on 2x, and now let me explain the timing for our first burst test. Let's wait till this warning sign goes away. You'll see this guy over here. When this stopwatch, this countdown timer, when this is at just hitting 0, just running out, that is when we'll trigger our AoE DPS, followed immediately by Dolores. A few seconds after, every time when there are more enemies in view, we will then trigger Mari. Simple as that. So let's throw this on 1x. See, it's just running out now. Boom, Beatrix, Dolores, and throw it back on 2x. When these guys turn down, now we have enough people in range. Now Mari, and that is it. The test will run until the very end of the countdown when the boss is going to heal. So right when this gets to like here, that is when I will cancel the run. So let's wait, and see, there's the heal coming, quit battle. That is the first burst test, just seeing in an optimal situation how much damage can each one of these heroes get out, each one of these AoE cultist DPS heroes get out before the heals start racking up. And here is Beatrix coming in at 13,494,000. So we'll put that into our sheet. All right, there you go. Now let's work our way down the list. Up now we've got Kria putting on the exact same Soulbound Arcana set. And you can see Kria's also a 0, as was Beatrix. All of our legendary heroes will be 0, or Awaken level 0. Eona obviously will be Awaken level 5. If you spend the $5 for Eona, you can put your epic soulstones into her and have her A5 easily within your first month playing this game, which a lot of people should do. So let's take that artifact from Beatrix to Kria, head right back in, and let's repeat that exact test. I'll set up with you again slowly, and then we're going to speed through, and we'll do that every time. Cyrene goes down, 2x. We can already place Kria over here. Another good thing is Venoma's making sure everyone's ready to ult. It's just for the testing. Let's get Mari and let's get Dolores. You'll see the same time, and then we'll just speed it up to the damage results. So we're waiting for that countdown clock over here. Waiting. I Throw it on 1x. It's about to run out. It's done. Trigger, trigger. Wait till these guys turn the corner for Mari. Boom. There we go. How did Kria do? And there's Kria coming in as easily the worst you're going to see. Kria is very bad. 5.681 million. All right, pretty paltry numbers from Kria. I've already geared up and set up Zelus. Let's quickly do this test. All right, that's going to be Zelus. I hate this lag at the end of each battle. It's already driving me crazy. Let's see it. How'd Zelus do? Zelus is coming in at 10.8. So better than Kria, worse than Beatrix. But at least he can hit all three lanes. All right, up next we have Xaris. This is an interesting comparison because he's also a brand new summoner with AoE. Unlike Beatrix, though, he is at his strongest at the start of the battle. That's when he gets the highest number of summons. So this is a big reason why I expect him to shine here in the first burst test, but it'll be very interesting to compare them in the full run test because that's not really how you're meant to use Xaris. I do anticipate, though, he'll still hold his own very well since he's a much better hero. For this test, though, he's probably going to do really well. Let's get into it. All right, Xaris did the best by a mile, but like we said, he was uniquely designed to be good at something like this. He is low cost, you can cycle him on and off. He's a different kind of hero, but he's so much better. And look at that, coming in at a staggeringly high 19 million. And the key thing here is Xaris, because he's unique, because there's a lot of ways to use him, he's the kind of hero that you actually would put good gear on and invest skill ups into, whereas in my opinion, Beatrix clearly is not. Hopefully I proved that point even further by the end of the video. All right, now we're testing an epic hero, Eona, with way lower base attack rate. She's only an epic, but still, as we're about to see, she will wreck this. And again, way cheaper, a lot easier to use. Let's get into the testing now. All right, guys, there is an epic hero, someone you're very easily, comfortably, efficiently going to build up, far less investment, doing skill ups, only epic skill ups, way easier to get awakenings into, and she blows the legendary hero out of the water with over 17 million damage. All right, guys, now we're on to the very good legendary AoE cultist DPS mages. You can see I've added Dahlia here because this is going faster than I thought, and I realized this was every single cultist legendary AoE mage plus that does DPS plus Eona, so might as well include Dahlia too. You're obviously going to see a ton of her over here. She's on the list as well. Anora, though, is ready to go, so let's get into it. All right, there we have Anora. Let's see how she did. You can see visually not to the level of like Xaris, but looks quite strong. Let's see the actual number. Anora is coming in at 14,397. So actually very, very comparable to Beatrix. But again, keep in mind she has full coverage and that makes her a lot more relevant. And she's someone you're going to use in other game modes, which furthermore means she's a skill up candidate. And that's someone who's exceedingly more relevant. Okay, guys, now we have Virna. You can see already how this is shaking out. Beatrix is somewhere in between Zelus and Nora, but being very, very much constrained by the poor range. Quite curious to actually see. I did do previews of all these first burst tests before. Very excited to see how it will shake out over the full run tests. Who knows? Could she surprise us? We are going to find out. For now, we have Virna. She is all built and set up. I will say this gear, we're using the same gear for every hero. It is suboptimal for Virna because we're investing in attack speed when it is useless upon her. She's also not getting things like her exclusive. But I think even still, she is going to shine. One thing worth mentioning, we are going to do her ult later since her ult is a singular burst. Everything else will be exactly identical. A final thing, if you look right above my head here, Power of Dominance has been off the whole time, obviously. I'll also mention, of course, I think it goes without saying, but Dolores is an Invig, so every time we're placing the Invig buff on our heroes over there. All right, let's do the testing. So the Dolores trigger time will be the same. Virna will just be delayed because that's how her kit works. So Dolores, and then we use Virna at the very end of Dolores. But already the damage looks quite nice. There's Virna doing Virna things. Let's check that damage. Virna's coming in at 16,669,000. Very nice, 1,000. All right, finally we have our late edition Dahlia. We have a very clear delineation on the kind of the tiering of the damage output from all these ladies. Interesting enough, besides Zelus, they actually are, you know, these witchy cultist ladies. Interesting with Dahlia, the reason she was originally left off of the list is she's not really a bursty hero, so a first burst challenge is not suited so well towards her. She's a slow burn, damage over time kind of hero, but still, let's put her to the test. All right, that is Dahlia. She still did really well given how much this challenge is not designed to fit her kit, let's say. Let's check that damage, and she comes in just a touch over 17 million. All right, guys, there we have it. These are the results. Xaris is built for a challenge like this. Obviously, he was phenomenal. Second place actually goes to Eona, really showing how strong she is and how important it is to have good gear and good artifacts. And then if you have a fully built out hero, they can really succeed. You know, Eona is someone you can invest in. Beatrix, in my opinion, is someone you never will. Continuing now, we've got Dahlia coming in at third, then Virna, then Eona. Just less than 1 million less was Beatrix, a nice chunk less was Zelus, and by a mile, our worst was Kria. I just realized because Kria's ult is like Virna's, it's just one big burst, I need to trigger Dolores before her, which I did not do, so I do not expect Kria to be much better, but just to be consistent, I'm going to redo Kria's first burst test. All right, first burst it again with Kria. We're going to do exactly the same thing, so I brought back Cyrene and Venoma. My apologies for this, guys. That is an oversight. I talked about all that other stuff too much, though, to just completely edit and redo everything. So here goes Cyrene. Here goes Kria. So I gotta do Dolores before Kria. Now we'll do Kria. You can see it wasn't perfectly lined up with everything with everyone in range still, so I don't think it's gonna be that much better, but I do want to give her her fair shake, so we shall do that. Let's get those final numbers. Okay, so she comes out at just less than 7 million. So it's not great, obviously, still, but we had to be fair to Kria. So guys, you can see she's not god awful. I mean, in my opinion, she's basically unusable because she's not covering another lane. Can that be viable though with some assistance from a Dahlia and then an Anora? We shall see. We're going to do some full run testing. This stuff I'm going to really speed up now. After that, we'll quickly go over her kit and I'll give my final conclusions. All right, guys, we are good to go. This is the team we're running. You can see I'm bringing Raiden as an Esotericist Lord for Eloin and Laurel because why not? Raiden and Aeon will not get deployed. Everyone else will. I'm not going to show you everyone's builds. They're completely conventional. We do have Invig, 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 and Invig. All that Invig is slight overkill, but we want to show clean, good runs, so we shall do that. The key builds to show are going to start with Artemis. Artemis is in some broken set gear, going for very high rage regen, very high attack speed, some tankiness, and that's really it. He's not even going to be that good of a healer. Very simple. And then for Dahlia, she is wearing my second Soulbound Arcana set. To show you the difference between these two sets, if I go to try on the one you've seen in all the content so far, what Beatrix is wearing, the Beatrix AoE DPS tester set, the original one you've been seeing, has a little bit more attack, a nice chunk more, which helps them because a lot of those heroes, especially Beatrix, have quite low attack, and then a little bit less crit damage, and then slightly 2 points more on attack speed, as well as more rage regen. That's it. So that is the baseline. I think that basically covers everything. Everyone else is totally standard. Here's the Dolores build if you just want to know, since this is tied to all the DPS numbers you've seen so far and will continue to see in this video. Without further ado, I'll set up this very first run, talk you through just the beginning with Beatrix. All subsequent runs, because we have 4 more to do after this, are going to be very fast. I'm just going to introduce it, and you'll see the results at the end, and then we'll do a big wrap up to conclude this video. All right, I just realized I forgot to put an artifact on Beatrix. I am glad I caught it. That would have been very bad. This is the comp. Let's head in. Like I said, for this first run of these 5 tests we're doing, I'll explain the initial setup. But after that, we're just going to very quickly speed everything along because there's so much to go through. First things first, we're placing our main DPS, our primary DPS, our test subject. However, very much Dahlia will be the chief DPS. The interesting thing is, though, this is a good opportunity for Beatrix to shine because, you know, it's very almost hilarious, comical that she can't cover this column, but someone like Dahlia maybe gives her enough support to make her viable. However, as a secondary DPS, almost any AoE mage can work for this role. Certainly if you have a primary DPS as strong as Dahlia. So unless she absolutely blows us away with this performance, I don't think it's really going to show us anything. I shouldn't make too many assumptions, though. Let's actually head in. Next thing we'll do is deploy Dolores. So we've got Invigoration on Beatrix. This is exactly how we're going to do it every single run, guys. Now we will get Dahlia down. We're going to wait for Laurel. She's got Invigoration. We're going to put on Dahlia. And then as soon as Dahlia's ready, and this is how we'll start it off every time, that is when we're going to trigger all these guys. So we go trigger, trigger, trigger. Great. Now we'll wait for 17 cost and we will do Hollow. Hollow's wearing Invig not for anyone else, it's just to help herself. See, very nice performance, all but this one pesky gator dude. Let's trigger. We can get Mari down over here. It's going to be tight, but we'll just have enough costs to get Elwyn down, who, funny enough, is placing Invig on Mari, but it doesn't matter. The Invig is just for her. We're not going to trigger any ults yet, and this, again, is how we will do it every time. We're going to wait till Artemis is down. And then now that Artemis is down, I'm going to show you this next lineup of triggers, and then we're going to speed up already to the end when we're killing the boss. So as soon as these guys start marching down, that is when we'll go down the line and trigger all this stuff. We wait when this is about halfway. We're going to trigger Artemis. Now when that's about done and these guys are close to the wall, we're going to trigger Mari for the freeze, and we're going to rinse and repeat every single time. See you guys at the end of the battle. All right, when these big guys halfway through the battle start marching down, this is the other thing I want to show you in terms of the strategy. We'll do it the same way every time. As soon as our DPS girls are ready to go, let's wait. We're going to trigger, trigger, trigger. When this is just less than halfway, we use Artemis. Now we trigger, let's get a freeze. Now we pick up Laurel, and that's how we're going to do it every time. So now we'll get another rage boost. We'll let these guys line up. We'll wait for Beatrix and Dolores. Trigger, trigger, a little laggy here with the blue stacks, but there you go. That's how it's going to go down every single time. See you at the end of the boss. All right, down goes the boss. Everything very well timed. It will be easy for me to replicate. One interesting thing, maybe you saw it even on the sped up version, the Dream Eaters, the summons that Beatrix creates, when there are no other enemies there, because of her weird cratch range, they actually go and they can reach the boss. So that's a little bonus damage for her. Let's see how this shook out. And pretty shockingly, a very, very strong result. So the key thing to think about, guys, because we're using, fully skilled out legendary mages, very strong comps, tons of rage regen, the thing we want to keep an eye out for is the distribution of damage. Typically on a Gear Raid 1 run, there's some variance depending on how much healing is landing, but if we run the run smooth, as we did here, there's about 200 million damage to go around. You can see this time it was just over 202 million, and it was nearly 50-50. So Beatrix really held her own. Can she do that by herself? Of course not. She can't handle the other column, the other lane. However, with some really nice support, in this case the support being a really good primary DPS, she can shine, and she did. The thing is, this is a very replaceable role, as I'm about to show you right now. But those are our initial numbers. Let's put that in the sheet, and here you go. And you'll see for this, we'll even do our little percentage calculations. So of the chief damage, there's obviously a tiny bit other hundred thousands of damage from the other people, but all the main damage is coming from our 2 DPS, as it will be the case every time. About 51.5% coming from Dahlia, about 48.5% coming from Beatrix. So let's test out Kria, especially now that we've figured out the burst issue with her ultimate and Dolores. Let's see how she does. Undoubtedly, she's going to do worse than Beatrix. How much worse? That is the key thing. And the other thing to consider is, can they still get it done? Spoiler alert, Of course they can. All right, Kria's all set. Let's head in. And again, the key thing to see is what share of the damage is she able to take? Can she compete with Beatrix? See you at the end of the battle. All right, guys, here we are at the end of the boss battle. Let's see how Kria did in comparison to Dahlia, and then her comparison to Dahlia versus Beatrix's comparison. Let's see it. All right, what does that DPS look like? You can see Kria's still completely holding her own. That being said, not as good as Beatrix, but based on our burst testing, we did expect that. Let's move on to our next heroes now. Let me put the percentages and the damage into our chart. All right, there you can see it. It's more like a 40-60 split, just less than 60% for Dahlia, just over 40% for Kria. Let's do Xaris and Dahlia. Okay, let's get into it with Xaris. The key thing to remember with him is this is not exactly how he's designed. He gets worse as the fight goes on. That's why you cycle him on and off. You'll see on his initial deploy, he gets a lot of summons. And then with each ult, he's going to do less and less and less summons. Kind of a waste deploying him that quickly, but we do want consistency, and that's what we'll get. See you at the end of the fight. Let's see how he does. All right, here we are at the end of the battle. Xaris gets visually weaker as it goes on. I think we definitely put up well over 200 million DPS between Xaris and Dahlia because they were able to get some heals out. By the end of the fight, after his fourth ultimate and on, he's only summoning one summon every time. Let's still see though. Let's see what those damage numbers look like. And you can see it's way thrown off. Not his kind of content, but you know, even for kind of a Beatrix hater like me, this was an important comparison. Is Xaris better for this? Yes. Is he better used in this way? Absolutely not. So if you want non-cycling, non-complicated things, Beatrix is going to be easy peasy as long as you have like a stud to pair her with or another, you know, top DPS AoE magic option. Let's put that information into our chart. All right, there you have it. Pretty crazy discrepancy. We had about a 50-50, then a 60-40. Now we're at about a 1/3 versus 2/3. Let's bring in Eona, though. I think she's going to wow some of us. Let's see it. All right, Eona time. I will see you at the end of the battle. This one should be very straightforward. All right, here we go, end of the battle. This one was silky smooth. I'm really curious to see about the DPS distribution. One thing, because Eona's ult is longer, it lasts 25 seconds, the timings were slightly longer so that we had a little less of the big bursts, so that might have held back our DPS a bit. But overall, I think it went really well. Let's see how we did. Going in here. And you can see, again, Beatrix, when it comes to being, this is surprising me. I'm happy to eat a touch of crow on this one. If it was with Kria, the crow would be no pun intended. But she's really good at being the other option. She can't do it herself because she can't cover it. You can see Eona's still doing great here. I'll put the numbers in the chart right now. And there you go. You'll see here it's quite close to with Beatrix, but Beatrix did take up more DPS than Eona was able to. All of these have been really smooth runs, but it's coming out at about 44% for Eona, 56% for Dahlia. All in all, I think the big takeaway, if we look at our burst numbers over here, it's all about how are you going to use these heroes. Someone like Xaris is brilliant, right? These other heroes are doing really great as well. Beatrix was towards the bottom, though not terrible. However, with the rage she's able to build as the fight goes on, and because she's scaling well in the really good gear, she does succeed really well in this. Part of it also is because she's concentrated on a smaller area. So yeah, huge knock against her because she can't do it by herself. But with help, then it starts working because she can focus in on one area, helps you clear out that area quicker, lets your other DPS focus on the area she's ignoring. The final test I do want to see is Beatrix with Anora, right? The way they're selling these heroes to us, Beatrix and Anora and Kria, even though this is kind of retroactive, of course, Xaris, they want us to be using these summoner heroes, and then Anora helps boost all the summons with her passive. Let's see what these two ladies can do together. This theoretically should be like Beatrix at her best, right? So let's see what that looks like. All right, guys, here we go. Our final test of a very, very long day for me. Hopefully the video is somehow reasonably length. Once I speed it up, we've got Beatrix in the main testing gear, the Soulbound Arcana set 1. Then the gear that was just on Dahlia, the Soulbound Arcana 2, is on Anora. They're both in max out tier of Twilights. So let's head into it. One thing off the bat, we have to change our placement because Anora cannot go with where Dahlia was. Obviously she won't reach that way. She doesn't have that crazy long range. Beatrix can go in the same spot. Now we have to put Dolores here. Here's hoping she doesn't die. I don't think she will. We wait for our 22 costs, and now Anora is going to go here. So that's the only little change. Fortunately, she's still not going to make it. She will, though, with the ult. So I think that's good enough. This might hurt us, though, obviously, right? That this spot is only touched by the ult. I'm thinking with labor and everything, we'll be able to make it work. If we do hit a big snag, we'll just switch the positions of these two girls. Simple as that. All right, let's wait for Laurel. There we go. Gonna trigger some ults. Boom, boom. We are off to the races. See you at the end. All right, there we go. We're taking down the boss on our final test of the day. You could actually just see there, we had 3 summoned, what she called them? The Dream Eaters from Beatrix. She did quite well this fight. I'll say we hit a couple snags with Anora just because the lineup of these two ladies' ults is so very different. But all in all, still a good run. I mean, it's always going to be a good run. Our gear is very good. That is test server life. I'm actually at the point where I need to farm some worse gear, I think. But there you go. This, I think, should be where Beatrix really shined, and there's a chance maybe she did. She cycled her ult very quickly. There were a lot of Dream Eaters. She was going pretty fast, getting boosted by Anora's passive. Let's look at these final numbers now. And Anora's still fricking Anora, even with her missing more ults than Beatrix did lining up with Dolores. It kind of just paints the picture. She is very much a secondary DPS. However, I think what we did learn is she can do that secondary DPS role extremely well. All right, guys, there you have it. Really nice thing we drew up at the end here. You can see very comparable results to the Eona Dahlia duo with the Beatrix Anora duo. Here, Beatrix is doing just over 43% of the damage, and we have Anora doing just under 57%. Here it was about 44.56. Now it's about 43.57. It kind of paints the picture beautifully, I think. She is usable, but it's contingent upon building her and investing in her, and that's not something I think anyone should do before Awakenings, whereas someone like Eona, you can just build, build, build. Even an A5 Greed would be able to do a very good job. Here, even Beatrix in some of the best gear on the whole test server is, you know, the second DPS, a role she's fulfilling well, but a role that is not worth investing in my opinion. Let's so quickly go through the kit and really Awakenings, because I do think Awaken level 5 Beatrix becomes viable. I think that, who cares? That means you need 6 copies, but at least it's something. So guys, the way Beatrix works is she has these Dream Eaters. Those are those glowing purple balls she summons. They get all of her stats, and then they're going to deal attacks 40% AoE magic damage. They also land some slows, as you can see over here. The chance is far too low. This is why in certain content, Kria actually could still be better, because Kria's DPS as a secondary DPS is good enough, and she has far more reliable slows. We're talking about 50% slows here, lasting only 2 seconds, hitting only 30% of the time. You know, with Anora, at least, with the passive, by the way, if you don't know the passive I am talking about, you can see there are going to be damage increases to allied summons, plus 10%. It's something. Clearly, it didn't really make her shine, or at least Beatrix in this case. If you also eventually with Beelzebub, if I can find him, if you ran a team with all those guys, maybe she'd get a little more reliable slows based off of, where is it? Here you can see the passive reduces the attack interval of allied summons, so they'll be attacking a little faster. That might be a nice synergy, you know, once Bubba comes out. But for now, it's just these numbers aren't enough, right? 40% magic damage, it's really not much. Compare that to Xaris, where it's 80%. Very, very, very inconsistent slows that I don't like. The way the ult was working is each time she was summoning 2 Dream Eaters. This leads to fairly nice uptime. There's no penalty as the fight goes on, like with Xaris, but also there's no really high ceiling, at least not without the Awaken level 5. You get a little damage boost. You reduce the cooldown, which is the cooldown of the talent, which is another way to summon Dream Eaters. We were getting a lot of kills, so that's why she was getting a lot of Dream Eaters, but that was contingent on having such a dominant comp. You do have the dominant comp, though. You probably don't need her, but if you have it, she works better. This is the real problem in her kit, I think. If you could cycle this very quickly, it's kind of expensive. It's not expensive, but it's not cheap at 900 ult cost, 900 rage. If this was cheaper, or quite frankly, more importantly, if this was more powerful when a Dream Eater explodes, which happens after it finishes existing in 18 seconds, you get this nice AoE burst, you get 2% rage. If this was like 15% rage, that would be really significant. She could really cycle through this thing, but 2% of what is this, 900 skill cost is 18 rage. 18. So every time one explodes, and she very rarely has more than 3 out, usually it's 0 or 2, you're getting 2% rage. If this was 10 or 15 or really like 20%, then we might have a hero. If they wanted to give her an exclusive that made this a lot higher, you know, or made her slows 100% and maybe made them 75% slows instead of 50, at this point we're kind of changing the whole character, then I think she'd be viable. But overall, I think the results of all this testing prove she cannot do anything right now by herself. The DPS was not high enough. I think we proved that you could use her for any later stages in Gear Raid 4. Early on, you're probably fine, but later stages, it's not going to happen. So without Awakenings and without some changes to her kit or a really powerful exclusive or maybe exclusive gear, this hero really, really isn't it. Slows aren't good enough. You can see here, increasing the attack stacks only to 10%. It's nice, but it's not enough to make up for her very, very low base attack. Obviously, they do that because she has all her summons, but her summons have very low multipliers. So it's just not very special. Nothing she does is special. The range is very stupid. No content in the game demands this, full stop. It's just very, very dumb. I think this is probably the most, I think there's an argument she's the most lazy, half-assed character in the game. Not to be too critical, she looks exactly like the design of many heroes across many games. Apparently there's a hero in Mobile Legends Bang Bang, the #1 Moonton property, that already looks exactly like her. She's boring, the kit doesn't fully make sense. It just feels like they were like, you have 3 minutes to make up a hero, do it. How could she be good? The Awakenings definitely help. So you can see Spirit Drain, this over here where she's getting the stacks. Now each stack gives an additional 1% attack. So when you are at full stacks, you're getting a 20% post-deployment attack boost. That is very nice. Certainly would make her stronger. Good enough? Borderline. But the A1 starts opening things up a little bit. And then maybe if you're desperate, she becomes a hero you might want to invest in. If we look over here, you can also get stacks more quickly. When you do the Dream Eaters die, you can get another stack that way. You're going to stack it up in the long battle quickly anyway. A2, 300 attack with only 4,000 base. This is very, very good. Very strong. The HP restore on the A3 is completely and utterly useless. The reduction in cost is nice, but why does she cost 22 to begin with? She should have started at 19. Maybe this could bring it down to 16. Then perhaps, you know, by the time you have her A4, you might be looking at an AoE arena hero. The A5, however, is definitively what makes her good. During the ultimate, you know, when you summon, instead of 2, it now becomes 3. That's huge. So it's like a whole extra summon, basically boosting the damage of her summons by 50%. You go from 100% at 2 to adding a third, that is up 50%. That is really good. And also you get this 1 in 4 chance every time an enemy dies, which in a lot of the AoE content is very frequent. You are going to summon 2 Dream Eaters instead of 1. Typically from the talent, she just summons 1. This is huge. If you can get her A5, I think at that point, if you somehow you're going crazy for Comet on the banner coming up, you know, and you pick up 6 Beatrixes, that sucks, I'm sorry. But at least once you get that 6th copy, her 5th Awakening, I do think you have a hero on your hands. This is what she should be like at base, though. This character really is not strong at all, and I'm not even going to give them the excuse of, well, every character can't be OP. I don't even think she's P. She's like mid at best. Her role is so niche and can dominantly be fulfilled by epics that do not require a monstrous 10 skill crystal investment on top of all the dust. She really needs awakenings and full skill ups to work. That's not what we're looking for in a hero when the best case scenario until she gets a 5 is she's maybe a 4 out of 10. There you go. I think she sucks. Mid tricks or bad tricks or shit tricks, whatever you want to call it. Indeed, that is what I have found her to be. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Fastidious. This video took me forever to film, so give it a big thumbs up if you like it. Let me know your thoughts about her in the comments. Share it with your mother. I hope to see you very soon. Thanks for watching.
Fastidious.